start, I was probably about, I actually started playing drums at 14. But my older brother, Anthony, he really was very, he inspired me. He's a drummer, and he was playing with a lot of bands. He was always out on the road, and I idolized him, and that's, pretty much, that's where I got my start. First time I played in front of people, I was, I think, 17. And I played with a couple of my friends that I was jamming with, and a friend of ours was having a party. He was throwing this big beer bash, actually, at a Polish hall. And that was pretty much our first gig. We played for a few dollars and beer. Well, my next progression was I did play with those guys for quite a few years. I guess that's where I started honing my craft, really. And then from there, I just branched out, and I just tried out for a couple of other bands, and that's, pretty much from there. I just went from band to band. The dance music came into my life. My brother was always a big soul guy, so I grew up listening to soul and funk and stuff like that. So I always had this vision of just, putting a band together that had those qualities. I mean, I grew up with rock and roll, but I just wanted to have a band that was just a little different. Well, I was pretty much, my whole life was spent in New York, and I retired from my job. I did 30 years working as a maintenance mechanic at a community college, and my plan was to retire from there and move to Florida. My beautiful wife, we found each other through music, through a band that we had played together. And things started there. We started as friends, and things progressed, and we became a couple after years, and we decided that we wanted to put a band together with both of our styles. Soultime actually is pretty much the first year when we moved here in Florida. We had, what we did was we had a band in New York playing similar music. And our whole idea was to do the same type of band and bring that to Florida, which we did. And people at the time thought we were crazy because all that was really happening here was rock and blues. And I remember talking to a few people before I moved here in the area, and I told them my vision of dance music and playing disco. And one guy says, "Oh, you gotta be crazy. You can't play disco here. You're gonna cause a riot. It will never happen." So, I mean, it's funny, and 8 years later, and here we are. Well, I believe the magic is the music that we do and how we do it. And the people that we have in the band now is like, we have something special. Everyone gets along really good, and the way we present the song it's really different than a lot of bands that I've heard, and people really seem to dig what we're doing. It's a 4-piece band. Again, I'm the drummer. I do some vocals. My wife is the lead vocalist. She plays keyboards. Pete is the bass player with vocals, and Dave is the guitarist with vocals. So, I mean, we have a really tight sound and a big sound for the 4 pieces of what we have. Well, the future is, I think we're trying to bring this band to another level. We want to just, I mean, we've been around about 8 years now, and we're starting to gain popularity, and we just want to bring it to the next level and just, show Florida really what we can do. You want to have a good time, come out and hear Soultime. We always say it's feel-good music. It makes you feel good, and it actually makes us feel good. It's just, you're gonna want to dance when you hear Soultime.
I have to say that I'm a jack of all trades, I'm gonna say right now, because I didn't really start off with music right away. It was more like I was in the arts of dance first. It was ballet, tap, and jazz. And then I just started singing in the choir. Maybe when I was like maybe like in second grade and folk group. My teacher said that I had the loudest voice out of the whole group. So she'd always push me towards the back and say that, you know, you're singing a little bit too loud, so just stay in the back of the group and we can hear you better from the distance. So I always had a, I guess you could say, a loud voice. I guess I developed it on my own. I never really had any formal training. I got my first start when I was 12. I looked much older for my age when I was 12 years old. And I met a friend of mine who I was a very avid tennis player. And I met her, we played a tournament together, this woman, and her and her husband had a band right around the corner from my house. It was in a catering hall. And she said, oh, you know, I know you can sing, why don't you come, you know, sing at bar mitzvah that we're singing at. I said, okay. So that's where I got my first real taste of singing in a band, but she couldn't put me in the band because it wasn't her band to begin with. But anyways, after all that, I got my first offer for singing in a job, but I was still too young at the time, so my parents weren't gonna let me do it. Well, when I turned 16, she told me that I could, you know, be like just like a pickup singer. Anybody who needed a singer in their band at the catering hall, I can do that. But then she got me an audition out in Suffolk County, or in Long Island, and that's when I got my first audition with a real band. And the band was called Hollywood, and that's when I first got my first start working with a real working band. The keyboard started coming in maybe when I was like in my early 20s or mid 20s. I left Hollywood and I started with her band. The girl who started me off, she wound up finding her own band, and her and her husband, we were called Uptown, and that's when I started doing like strings and stuff like that. I was doing lead singing and keyboards and also choreography, dance choreography for the band. Spiraled from there, we wound up playing with a band called Cherry Pie in the beginning, and then Cherry Pie became Crosstown Rhythm, and then Crosstown Rhythm became Soultime. So, and that's when I started, you know, playing more of the keyboards. That's when I started going out there and playing keyboards and singing at the same time. It took a while for us to really launch off Soultime, but to where we are now, you know, to how everybody knows us now. I want to take Soultime to as far as it can go, man. I mean, we've been having a great journey so far. We found some really phenomenal musicians, you know. Dave's awesome, Pete's awesome, my husband's awesome. I mean, I think this is like this is the best group that we've had thus far. We're just so tight now, you know what I mean? We have all the vocals that I've been dreaming of for so long. You know, everybody sings, which is awesome. We have the harmonies, and it's just, I want to take it, you know, as far as we can go.
I started playing guitar when I was about 8 years old. I asked my parents if I could play, and they got me a guitar and started taking lessons, and that was my start playing. I had a little 3/4 size Alvarez acoustic that I kept with me for like, gosh, I don't know, the next 20 or 30 years or so. I took some lessons from a dear friend, his name's Bob Berger. And he kind of got me started, and actually he got me started on some of the classic, you know, older stuff that we play now with Soultime, so that was cool. I'm not sure I can remember the first paying band gig, but I can remember my first gig was I was still in junior high, and I was playing in a band with my brother who was older than me, and we played in our high school auditorium for a battle of the bands. And it was packed, and people were crowd surfing, and the whole thing there was such an energy to it, and I loved it. And that was a very memorable first show. I would say I started playing professionally in my early 20s. I joined up with a band called Continental, and we started touring all across the United States and back. We were opening up for some bigger bands at the time, and then we started doing tours of our own. We eventually made it over to Europe for several tours, and I played on and off with them for quite a while, and we got to see and do a lot of fun stuff out on the road, so that was cool. I grew up in Connecticut, central Connecticut, kind of in the woods, in the middle of nowhere. And I just moved to Florida earlier this year, so I've only been here for about half a year. And the thing about the soul and the funk and the disco and the dance music that we play is there's just such an incredible catalog of amazing music that we draw from. And it's really fun to play because it gets people moving. And when people are moving and having fun and dancing, you know, we respond with our energy, and it just is a lot of fun. This is kind of my first time playing in a band, playing this type of music, although I've always been a fan of a lot of what we play. So it's really fun to get out and get people dancing and having a good time. The tracks that we pull from, you know, there's so many amazing old songs and artists that we do, and it gets people up and moving and dancing, and that to me is the most fun part of it. Not only do I love the music, and it's, you know, I enjoy learning it and performing it, but getting people up and moving and dancing is a lot of fun. And when the crowd's having a good time, then we're having a good time in the band. So that's what I enjoy about it.
Early on, I had my older brother who got involved with like a bluegrass band, country band, and when I saw him playing with his good friend, I was like, this is pretty cool. And my brother, his name's Tony, he was a huge inspiration to me, and kind of like Vinny, his brother, you know, helping out. And I can remember him helping to get my first bass. Super awkward instrument. It was like a P bass copy, and the action on that thing was terrible. I mean, it was terrible. But I burned through it, and I learned how to play. And so he basically got me started, and he actually helped me with a couple of other instruments too, as time went on. And even my older brother, my brother Johnny, helped me get a really nice instrument when I finally got to a more professional level. And then even my mom at that point helped me to even get even a more professional instrument even as time went on. So it was like my family helped me out tremendously in this process. My family originally were from the Chicagoland area, and I lived in a suburb that was actually in Indiana called the Region. And so my father commuted, you know, into Chicago for his work, and it was kind of a rural area, so we had a lot of wide open spaces to get into lots of trouble and play loud music. I went to the Bloom School of Jazz, and so it was through those connections that I ended up playing jazz music in Chicago. And one of the first gigs that I actually did was right after I got out of high school I was a part of our local repertory theater, which also did the high school theater, and we had an opportunity to do a showcase concert with it was a jazz show, and I was playing bass for that, and I think that was the thing that really got me into jazz music and more. I was always into like funk and that type of sound, but that really hit it off. It was. I know in Dave's interview, you were talking about how that first gig got you going, and it was really exciting, and the energy was there, and it sort of changed you forever. That's what happened with me at that point. Every relationship in my life, I can draw a line back to music. Every relationship, from my parents, my brothers and sisters, to my childhood friends. And then as I kept going, when I moved to California, the first people I, of course, met were musicians. And from there, they started introducing me to a bunch of people. Through the whole process, I was able to meet my lovely wife and Patricia. And we've been together a long time, and music has been one of these things that has helped and tied us together, and it's been a part of everything that we do. When I figured out that music was the string that was common through every relationship, it blew me away. You know, when I finally realized that music actually was guiding my life the whole time. I wanted to find an ambitious group of people who loved music, and as a bass player, I wanted to find a group that would lend to lots of bass playing. And soul music is just, I joke about it with the guys, because when we play every night, it's like one big bass line. The whole night is like one long bass line. And I wouldn't have it any other way, you know, because of just my love for the bass. But it gives you so much to work from, you know. And what's wonderful, when I first got going with Soultime, I was concerned that, I was like, well, you know, do they want it like exactly like the record? You know, do they want it, the bass lines to be perfectly done like the album? And they were so open, you know, to like, you know, let's make it our own. Let's you know, take it up a notch. And you know, really from our first time together and meeting and first gig, it was like I had to learn about 60 tunes in about 2 weeks. Yeah, so that first gig was fun. But after that, it was smooth sailing all the way. I really feel that the group has got something, and one of the big things that I see that the group has is it has vision for the future, and it has ambition. And I love that. And without having that, you're gonna just be like a pinball machine, or within a pinball machine, bouncing around and really not knowing where you're going. And I think it took a little while for for the band to assimilate, you know, and to get to know each other and to trust each other and all of that. And now I think that we're going to be able to do some really great things, both not only here in Brevard County, Florida, but I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised on what the future holds for the group as we focus in on, number one, making the music the best it can be. The music itself makes people move and dance. That's rewarding. For me, it's rewarding to see that happen. That means we're connecting with people and that they're having fun, you know, and I want to have fun. I really do, and music is one of those things that'll help it. So the future for the group, I think, really sky is the limit, depending on how far, you know, everybody wants to go. Jerry and Vinny have come a long way. And I respect that. I respect that perseverance, because most people just don't keep going. They quit, and then they wonder why. Well, you know, how come we didn't meet the goal or the dream? And you know, of course, they stopped doing what they should have kept doing, and that's not happening here. So I believe that there's definitely a great future.
So just keep an eye out, everybody out there. Keep an eye out and watch for Soultime. We will be in a town near you.
You.
That's right.
Most definitely.
We are Soultime.